ZKAccess, we are the world's largest manufacturer of RFID and biometric readers, most often used in access control and time and attendance for hourly wage workers punching in and out of work. I say to anyone who's young, getting out of school, or looking at careers, the single most important thing in technology, of course, is to understand it's rapidly moving forward. So whenever you're in a position where clients are entrusting you to make recommendations, always think foremost of scalability. Where are you going to be in the future? Because an end user doesn't want to have to reinvest. They don't want to have to throw out their old infrastructure and have to replace it with something new. Very expensive. So I always encourage, always look to the future, always look for scalability. Also with regards to security, it's very important to note that security products can be defeated by human beings. There's no one security that cannot be compromised. So with regards to security, you always want to layer the security and make it increasingly difficult for someone to compromise your security by also being mindful of the costs associated with it. A simple example, of course, is when you go to the ATM machine to take out cash, you have two credentials. You have something you have in possession, which is a card, and then something you know, which is your code. When you go to take your money out, you flash your card, you enter your PIN code, you access your money. Therefore, you can be assured that if anyone ever gains access to your card, well, they don't know your code, so they can't access your money. And if they have your code, they don't have your card. Likewise, you want to keep that in mind with security. So when you look at all the various technologies we'll review, we've got devices that read your card, that read your passcode, that read your palm vein, that read your eyes, that read your finger. There's no customer that's asking specifically for one product. Customers will only ask you things based on their limited knowledge of what they've seen. And it's scary, sometimes they'll ask you about things in the movies. So as we go across the product line, be mindful, is the technology scalable? And how do you layer it to provide both security while also keeping convenience in mind for users? Now, most people are focused, of course, on securing their building, but before they get to the building, they're also accessing your perimeter. And in the perimeter, you may want to position a metal detector. You know, it's very sad that we live in times where guns are now being brought into public arenas where shootings occur, or weapons and so on. So metal detectors, unfortunately, are becoming more prominent. So you want to look for metal detectors that have many different zones of detection, and this way it makes it more difficult if I've got metal in my pocket, or metal, maybe a knife in my sock. You also put them in front of schools because sometimes the children will bring in calculators and cheat on math exams. So there are all various different reasons why you want to look for metal before you come into the building. And I'm very proud, the ZKAccess line probably is the single most comprehensive product line of any access vendor you'll come across in your research. As we go across the table, there's a variety here of readers. Now, it's important to note that on the back end of a reader, it does only one of two things. It either sends electricity to a door lock to open up the door, or it sends a communication signal to a panel. The protocol is normally called Wiegand or OSDP, where the panel opens up the door. That has not changed in almost 40 years. So a lot of times, new engineers or even customers sometimes feel a little bit intimidated by all this new technology, like biometrics, but really on the back end, the device is either opening up a relay to a door lock or signaling a control panel to open up. The only thing that differs is on the front end, how do you prove who you are when you authenticate to the reader? Now in the old days, or still today, even your garage door opener is a simple fob or keypad where you punch in your code and the garage door opens or the door releases. Well, that same technology is being used in today's biometric readers, but instead of just a keypad, perhaps you might authenticate with a card. Now, the challenge with cards, of course, is that they can be lost or stolen. If someone appropriates my card, they can actually gain access to all the doors because the card is what has permission to the door. And that's why we introduced biometrics, because a biometric cannot be lost or stolen. So if you look at many of these readers, at minimum, they also do read a code because they have soft keypads. They also read a card because they have integrated internal RFID readers, but on top of that, we now layer the security, like as I mentioned at the ATM machine. Now you could also have readers that read your finger. Everyone has a unique finger. These readers will also read your face through face recognition. And there's nothing more convenient than face recognition. You don't even have to take your hands out of your pockets. You basically just look into the camera. The camera will then take a picture of your face, convert it to a biometric binary code, which it then compares to the enrolled database of faces. And if it's a match, the door opens up. So face recognition, I see, as the future of access control. We also have other technologies that read biometrics. We can read the veins in your finger, which is highly, highly accurate. We can read the veins in your palm. We can also read irises. So there's all different biometric technology that the customer will make their decision based on, one, price, and two, what environment do they have. For instance, fingerprints, it's well known that even though the technology is vastly improved, fingerprints don't work for all types of people. Anyone who's got cuts, scrapes, scratches on their fingerprint, or people over the age of 65 where you get more wrinkles. So fingerprint doesn't always necessarily work so well. So you might want to consider face recognition. Face recognition doesn't always work in very bright lights. So you might want to think of palm vein technology or veins. So biometrics is very well suited only if you know the demographics and the environment to which it's installed. Most importantly though, you want to add the layers of security. Perhaps have the user authenticate with their code and a face, or the code, the finger in their face. You want to make it so that it's highly secure or very convenient. The extreme example of convenience is looking into a camera, and without even taking my hands out of my pocket, the door opens up. So you'll see a variety of biometric readers on display from ZKAccess. Of course, software is the key to any access control system, because the software is where you enroll your users and where you determine what access rights that person has. For instance, I may only be allowed in the building from Monday through Friday because I'm an employee, but the cleaning staff comes in on the weekends. So in the software, you'll program the person's user ID number, their badge number. You'll also control their biometric templates, and then you'll also control where and when they can have access to your building. Now, especially in certain markets in the United States and in Western Europe, the cost of labor needs to be kept in mind when doing any implementation, because no matter how inexpensive the products are, labor can be very expensive. So when you start to look at access control and security projects, you have to start thinking what labor might be involved. So that's why at ZKAccess, in most all of our access control products, we now have provided a power over Ethernet splitter. Power over Ethernet basically is taking electricity from a network cable that's probably already run to the door and using that electricity to power the access control reader and open up the door lock. So power over Ethernet, currently it's extremely popular with PoE cameras, but now we're introducing power over Ethernet to access control, because now you no longer have to hire a licensed electrical contractor, nor do you have to run expensive hardwired power. Also with access control, you always need the software to program the users or to make changes and that kind of thing. Well, sometimes it is cost prohibitive to run network cable if you've got two locations very, very far apart. So more common now is wireless technology. We've made wireless technology very simple. We have a wireless transmitter we now include with our access control. And this way, you can have wireless access control from very far places. So you don't actually have to be there. And if you plan this correctly, you can put your wireless transmitter and mount it into the very same metal enclosure as your access control. So another way to reduce the expense of access control installations is access to the software. Even though we have a software version that's free, you have to download it from the internet, and if your customer asks you to put it on their computer, as an installer, you don't know what else is on that computer. They could be running virus software, they could be running conflicting applications, so you never want to have your application running in an environment that's not controlled. So we have what we call an in-bridge server, which is a hardware appliance, pre-hardened operating system with our software preloaded. You can also have software up in the cloud. So keep in mind, whenever you're doing an installation, labor is just as important as the cost of the product, especially if you're doing business in the US and Western Europe. Began this review with our metal detector. Think about it, in today's world, before anyone approaches a building, they usually approach with their car. So it's very important to also have access control measures at the parking lot. Here we have our license plate recognition gate controller. This has an embedded optical character recognition engine built into the camera. So as the car pulls up, the camera will look at the license plate, convert it into alphanumerics, compare it to a database, and if the license plate is recognized, the gate will open up. So now you've actually secured the parking facility. You can also have a message sent to the person inside the building that their guest has arrived, and this way they're prepared in time. So that, now we're talking about integration. It's important to integrate things. Your access control, your visitor management. It's also important to integrate your video. A good suggestion is you should have a camera pointed at every single door, and when the door is opened up, the camera now starts recording who came through that door, and then output that into the audit log. So the system administrator can see the user, their ID number, and also video footage of the person as they were coming in. So perimeter security, very, very important. We have metal detectors, license plate recognition. Also, we make turnstiles and also x-ray machines. So again, layer up the security. Employees could punch in with a card, but if I was coming in late, I could tell my coworker, please punch me in tomorrow morning. I'm running late and I don't want to be docked any unearned hours. So biometric clocks now prevent that from happening because you can't cheat. Only I own my fingerprint. So when I punch into work, I use my finger, my time is noted, and now my employer does not have to worry about me cheating on my work hours. Home security now is very, very popular, residential security. So we also now have consumer-based products that are all do-it-yourself, DIY. We now have biometric door locks where a homeowner can simply remove their doorknob they have in place and now install one of our fingerprint readers or face readers in place of it. Completely do it yourself. The power here is how many times have any one of us have become accidentally locked out because we misplaced our keys? Or maybe the kids were locked out, or maybe the kids are sharing their key to the house with people we don't know about. Well, biometrics prevents this. Now I could use my fingerprint to open up a door lock, or I could use my face to open up the door lock. And again, face recognition, my hands don't even have to come out of my pockets. I look in the camera and I turn the doorknob. So this pretty much was a snapshot of the technology that we've introduced to the market. Again, I work with ZKAccess. We are the largest in the world producing these types of readers. We have the single most comprehensive product line. And to anyone who's getting a start in the access control industry, the things I'd like to once more bring to your attention: scalability. You want to make sure that you're taking your customer into the future and protecting their initial investment. Also keep in mind, there's no one single security technology that cannot be compromised. The only way to improve security is to add layers. So if you have a lock and key, you should convert them to at least a card system. And if you have a card system, bear in mind cards can be lost, stolen, or replaced. You should bring them to biometrics. And with biometrics, there's fingerprint, there's face, there's palm vein, all these different types of methodologies. Speak to an expert who can make a recommendation based on your client's budget and the environment which you're installing the products.